In this video, we are going to learn all about the three types of brown hens with the highest egg production worldwide, which are the Isa Brown, Lohmann Brown, and Highline Brown. The first thing we should know is that these three varieties of high-producing hens were created by different companies, located in distinct geographical regions. Therefore, the pure breeds used to make the cross in each line of laying hens are also different. For example, the Isa Brown hen was created by a French company called the Institute of Animal Selection. On the other hand, the Lohmann Brown hen was created in Germany by the company Lohmann Tierzucht, and the Highline Brown was created in the United States by the company Highline International. Differentiating between the Lohmann Brown, Isa Brown, and Highline Brown hens, if they are the same color, can be a very difficult task if pullets are acquired or purchased without the breeder certificate. For that reason, we are going to differentiate each of them and see which is the most productive or profitable in terms of egg production. We should know that these three varieties are commercial hybrid lines selected for high brown egg production and share similar physical characteristics. To differentiate each of these three laying lines, let's first start with weight. Weight is one of the most important indicators, as each company manages specific standards for each line of commercial hens. For example, the Lohmann Brown hen is the heaviest of the three varieties, with an average weight ranging from 1.9 to 2.2 kilograms, approximately 4.19 to 4.85 pounds, perfect as a dual-purpose hen, which means it can be used for both egg and meat production. This weight is thanks to the breeds used for the cross. The Rhode Island Red Rooster, which generally has a weight ranging from 3.3 to 4 kilograms, approximately 7.28 to 8.82 pounds, and the White Plymouth Rock Hen, which generally ranges from 2.6 to 3.6 kilograms, approximately 5.73 to 7.94 pounds. The Isa Brown has an average weight ranging between 1.7 and 2.0 kilograms, approximately 3.75 to 4.41 pounds, being a more compact and also dual-purpose hen. This weight is very similar to that of the Lohmann Brown, as the Rhode Island Red Rooster was also used for the cross, but this time with a Rhode Island White Hen, which has an average weight ranging from 2.6 to 3.3 kilograms, approximately 5.73 to 7.28 pounds. The Rhode Island White Hen is slightly lighter than the White Plymouth Rock Hen, hence the weight difference between a Lohmann Brown and an Isa Brown. The Highline Brown, on the other hand, is the lightest framed high-producing laying hen line, with an average weight ranging between 1.6 and 1.9 kilograms, approximately 3.53 to 4.19 pounds. Although the crosses this company makes to produce this hybrid are unknown, it is estimated that they use genes from the Leghorn breed, which is leaner, as the company seeks lower weight and better performance in feed conversion and egg production. As I mentioned, weight is the easiest way to differentiate them, as plumage color makes it a bit more complicated. However, it is also possible if you have a keen eye for observing the difference. So let's look at the plumage differences that can be observed between these three varieties of hens. The Lohmann Brown has uniform reddish-brown plumage, sometimes with lighter feathers on the neck and tail. The Isa Brown has a slightly darker brown coloration with reddish tones and white feathers on the neck and tail. The Highline Brown is easier to differentiate than the Isa Brown and Lohmann Brown, as it is uniformly dark brown without noticeable white markings. Regarding the comb and wattles, all three have a single comb, leaf type, but in some Highline Brown lines, a slightly smaller comb may be observed. Now let's see which is the most productive. It should be noted that, although there are some differences in the number of eggs, all three lines are excellent in egg production and feed conversion. For this reason, they are the three best laying hens worldwide. Let's start with the Lohmann Brown. This high-producing line is capable of laying about 300 to 320 eggs per year, and the egg generally weighs between 64 and 72 grams, which is an excellent weight. This makes the Lohmann Brown a superstar in industrial egg production, and the best part is that it has a feed consumption of 110 to 120 grams per day. It is crucial to understand the concept of productive life, which for these high-producing lines focuses on the period of maximum efficiency in egg laying. During approximately the first year and a half, about 78 weeks, these hens reach their peak production, being able to lay around 500 to 600 excellent quality eggs. It is important to note that, although the laying rate gradually decreases after this period of maximum production, these birds are still capable of continuing to lay eggs. However, the lower frequency and, in some cases, the quality of the egg make keeping them for large-scale commercial production no longer profitable. It is for this reason that they are often sold as, quote, spent hens. If these hens are allowed to live beyond their commercial productive cycle, a Lohmann Brown could lay a maximum of 600 to 800 eggs in total over a longer lifespan. The Isa Brown can produce 310 to 350 eggs per year. This is possible thanks to the combination of both parents, both the Rhode Island Red and the Rhode Island White. The Rhode Island White hen is a better layer than the White Plymouth Rock, hence the difference in egg laying between the Lohmann Brown and Isa Brown hens. The eggs of this hen can weigh about 65 grams on average, and it also consumes about 120 grams of feed per day. If these hens are allowed to live beyond their commercial productive cycle, an Isa Brown could reach 700 to 1,000 eggs, or even more over a longer lifespan. As for the Highline Brown hen, it can lay a modest 300 to 330 eggs per year, not bad at all considering the unknown breeds used to create this high-producing hybrid. The egg of this line can weigh about 65 grams, but the most interesting thing is that the Highline Brown line is the best in terms of feed conversion, with a consumption ranging from 100 to 110 grams of feed per day. If these hens are allowed to live beyond their commercial productive cycle, a Highline Brown could be in the range of 650 to 800 eggs over a longer lifespan. And speaking of eggs, there are also differences in egg color between the three varieties of laying hens, as they all lay brown eggs, but the shade may vary slightly. For example, the Isa Brown laying hen produces medium brown eggs, sometimes lighter. The Lohmann Brown lays uniformly dark brown eggs. And in the Highline Brown, the eggs are intensely brown with a more resistant shell. These are the most important qualities we can take into account to differentiate the three high-producing lines. Now we are going to learn some differences in their temperament and other characteristics that are also important to know if you want to choose any of these lines for egg production at home. Regarding behavior, the Lohmann Brown hen is the calmest, ideal for free-range systems, as these birds do not usually fly or stray from the area where you keep them. They always tend to stay close to where they eat or lay their eggs. The Isa Brown is more adaptable to cages or intensive farms than the Lohmann Brown, with an active temperament. So if you are looking for a hen to keep loose in the yard, you can choose the Lohmann Brown line. Or if you want to keep them in cages, the Isa Brown is perfect for you. The Highline Brown is more resistant to heat stress and is excellent both free-range and in cages. Behavior in different housing systems is an important factor to consider when choosing one of these lines. As mentioned earlier, the Lohmann Brown tends to be calmer and adapts well to free-range systems, showing less tendency to fly or wander off. The Isa Brown, with its more active temperament, adapts well to cage systems or intensive farms, where its activity level does not pose a problem and can even be beneficial for its metabolism in those controlled environments. The Highline Brown stands out for its versatility, showing good adaptation in both cage housing systems and alternative systems, including free-range. Its resistance to heat stress also contributes to its good performance in various environments. Efficiency in hot or cold climates is an important consideration, especially in regions with extreme temperatures. The Lohmann Brown, with its larger body size and dense plumage, may be slightly more susceptible to heat stress compared to lighter lines. However, with adequate shade and access to fresh water, it can adapt reasonably well. The Isa Brown, being medium-sized and also with dense plumage, presents similar considerations in hot climates, requiring good management conditions to avoid heat stress. The Highline Brown is often noted for its better tolerance to heat stress compared to the other two lines. Its leaner build may contribute to better heat dissipation. In cold climates, all three lines may require additional protection to prevent frostbite on combs and wattles, as well as a higher caloric intake in their diet to maintain body temperature and production. Regarding resistance to common diseases, while all three lines are hybrids selected for good general health, certain predispositions or problems may arise in intensive production. A common concern is cloacal prolapse, which can occur, especially in hens with a high laying rate and as they age. While not exclusive to one line, proper weight management and a balanced diet can help minimize its incidence in all three. Respiratory diseases, such as infectious bronchitis and Newcastle disease, can affect all three lines if preventative vaccination programs are not implemented and good ventilation and hygiene conditions are not maintained in the facilities. Specific susceptibility may vary slightly between lines and strains. Parasites, both internal, such as worms, and external, such as mites and lice, are another common threat. Good litter management, regular antiparasitic treatments, and a clean environment are crucial to prevent infestations in any of the three lines. Although specific information on genetic resistance to certain diseases is often confidential, it is known that vaccination programs are fundamental to protect these birds against important viral diseases. Vaccination schedules usually include immunization against Marek's disease, fowlpox, avian encephalomyelitis, infectious bronchitis, Newcastle disease, and Gumboro disease. The exact program may vary depending on the region and the prevalence of local diseases, so it is essential to follow the recommendations of an avian veterinarian. In addition to vaccination, biosecurity measures are crucial to prevent the introduction and spread of diseases. This includes controlling access to facilities, regular disinfection, proper handling of new birds, and constant observation of the behavior and health of the flock. In general, if good management, nutrition, and biosecurity practices are maintained, all three lines, Lohmann Brown, Isa Brown, and Highline Brown, can show good resistance to common diseases in poultry production. Another important aspect we should consider is the time they start laying, as it is also a key way to identify each high-producing line. The Isa Brown begins laying between 18 and 20 weeks, which is equivalent to 4 to 4.5 months. This makes the Isa Brown one of the hens that start laying at an earlier age in the world, thanks to the genetic improvements the company has made in creating these super hybrids. The Lohmann Brown starts laying between 19 and 21 weeks of age, which is equal to between 4.5 to 5 months. Although its development is slightly later than that of the Isa Brown, it can compensate with a sustained high production over time, even slightly above the Isa Brown. And the Highline Brown begins laying between 20 and 22 weeks, or what is the same, 5 to 5.5 months of age. The Highline Brown are the ones that usually take a little longer to mature, but they stand out for the high quality of the egg in terms of size and shell, which is resistant from the beginning of laying to the end. Shell quality throughout the laying cycle is a crucial factor for marketing and reducing losses due to breakage. In general, all three lines produce eggs with good quality shells, although there are some subtle differences and trends as the birds age. The Lohmann Brown tends to produce eggs with a dark brown and good resistance shell, although some studies suggest that quality may decrease slightly towards the end of the laying cycle, with a possible increase in fragility. The Isa Brown also produces eggs with a good quality and medium brown shell. It has been observed that shell quality can remain relatively good during a longer laying cycle, although it is also susceptible to a slight decrease at the end. The Highline Brown is often praised for the consistency and strength of its intense brown shell, even as the laying cycle progresses. Its ability to maintain good shell quality over a prolonged period is one of its distinctive advantages. This decrease in shell quality as hens age is due to several factors inherent in the physiological changes that the birds undergo. These factors include reduced efficiency in calcium absorption, a possible reduction in the egg retention time in the oviduct, hormonal changes, and a tendency of older hens to lay larger eggs. Despite being a natural process, several strategies can be implemented to mitigate this decrease, such as adjusting the diet to increase the level of calcium and vitamin D3, appropriate management of the flock's age, lighting programs, genetic selection, minimizing stress, and an adequate supply of water. Egg size throughout the laying cycle is another important characteristic that can vary between these lines and also evolve as the hens age. Generally, young hens begin by laying smaller eggs, and the size gradually increases until reaching an average at maturity. Towards the end of the laying cycle, egg size may stabilize or even increase slightly in some birds. The Lohmann Brown generally produces large to extra-large eggs, with an average weight that falls between 64 and 72 grams, maintaining this size fairly constant during its peak production period. The Isa Brown produces medium to large eggs, with an average weight around 65 grams, with a size that is established at maturity and remains relatively stable for most of its productive cycle. The Highline Brown also produces medium to large eggs, with an average weight similar to the Isa Brown, around 65 grams, standing out for the consistency in egg size that they usually maintain throughout their laying cycle. Regarding specific nutritional needs, the three lines of laying hens share similar basic requirements in terms of protein, energy, vitamins, and minerals for optimal production and health. However, slight variations may exist depending on the stage of production, age, and environmental conditions. Generally, all require a balanced diet with a good level of protein, carbohydrates, and fats as an energy source, and an adequate proportion of calcium and phosphorus. Vitamins and trace elements are essential for various metabolic functions and the maintenance of health. Although there are no drastic differences in the nutritional needs between the Lohmann Brown, the Isa Brown, and the Highline Brown, the producing companies usually offer specific recommendations for each of their lines, taking into account their genetic potential and the particularities of their metabolism. These recommendations may vary slightly in the percentages of protein, calcium, and phosphorus levels, and the inclusion of specific additives to optimize their performance in the different production phases. The mortality rate is a crucial indicator of the health and adaptability of any line of production birds. While all three lines, Lohmann Brown, Isa Brown, and Highline Brown, have been genetically selected for their robustness and performance, there are some factors that can influence their mortality rates throughout their life cycle. In general, with good management practices, adequate nutrition, and effective biosecurity programs, mortality rates in these lines are usually relatively low, especially during the laying period. However, it is important to consider that slight differences may exist between them, and that mortality may increase towards the end of the productive cycle. The Lohmann Brown is generally considered a resistant line, with a mortality rate that remains low during its laying period. Its robustness and adaptability to different management systems contribute to this characteristic. The Isa Brown also presents good viability, with low mortality rates when managed properly. Its adaptability to intensive systems and its good overall performance are associated with good survival. The Highline Brown is recognized for its excellent viability and low mortality rates. Its resistance to stress and its ability to adapt to various production environments contribute to higher survival throughout its laying cycle. It is important to note that the actual mortality rate in any flock of birds can be influenced by multiple factors, including the quality of the day-old chicks, housing conditions, nutrition, sanitary management, and exposure to diseases. Therefore, while there are general trends regarding the robustness of each line, careful management and the implementation of good practices are fundamental to minimize losses in any case. The rest period between laying cycles is a common practice in commercial poultry production to allow birds to recover their body condition and optimize their performance in a second laying cycle. However, the implementation and duration of this period may vary depending on management strategies and market conditions. Traditionally, after a laying cycle of approximately 70 to 80 weeks, hens may undergo a period of forced molting. This process induces a cessation of egg laying and a renewal of plumage, which allows for physiological recovery before starting a new production cycle. The duration of forced molting can vary, but it generally ranges from a few weeks to a couple of months. In the case of the Lohmann Brown, birds can be subjected to a forced molting program to extend their productive life. This rest allows them to recover body reserves and can result in a second laying cycle with good production, although generally slightly lower than the first and with larger eggs. Similarly, the Isa Brown can also go through a period of forced molting. The response to this process and the performance in the second cycle will depend on various factors, including the condition of the birds at the end of the first cycle and the management during molting. The Highline Brown can also be managed with a rest period through forced molting. This line has shown good recovery capacity and acceptable performance in a second laying cycle under proper management conditions. It is important to mention that the decision to implement a rest period and forced molting depends on economic and management considerations. In some production systems, it is preferred to replace the birds with young flocks instead of extending the productive cycle through molting. However, when molting is chosen, careful management during this period is crucial to ensure good recovery of the birds and optimal performance in the next laying cycle. In summary, while Lohmann Brown, Isa Brown, and Highline Brown hens share similarities such as their plumage color and high brown egg production capacity, each line presents distinctive characteristics in terms of weight, plumage appearance, behavior, start of laying, shell quality, egg size, nutritional needs, mortality rate, and response to the rest between laying cycles. The choice of one line or another will depend on the specific objectives of the producer, the management conditions, and the priorities regarding productivity, efficiency, and adaptability to the environment. Wishing you success, fellow breeder. Until next time.